The ambulance doors burst open at 2:47 a.m. No ID, no family, no name. Just a man bleeding out on a stretcher with a tattoo the paramedics couldn't explain. The ER doctor called it a lost cause. The chief surgeon said to let him go. But Nurse Sarah Mitchell stood in the doorway of Trauma Bay 3, staring at that tattoo, her hands perfectly still, because she knew exactly what it meant. And she knew that if he died tonight, so would everyone else in this hospital. Sarah had worked the night shift at St. Catherine's Hospital for 3 years. 3 years of double-checking IVS and dodging Dr. Reeves' condescending lectures. 3 years of being invisible. That's exactly how she wanted it. The man on the gurney was mid-30s. Athletic build. Gunshot wound to the chest. His breathing was shallow, rattling. The paramedic was still doing compressions when they wheeled him past the nurse's station. GSW, no pulse for 2 minutes. We got him back once, but he's crashing again, the paramedic shouted. Dr. Reeves glanced up from his clipboard. He was the head of emergency medicine. Arrogant, lazy. He looked at the patient, then at his watch, pupils fixed and dilated. Not yet, but he's gone. Call it. We need this bay for the car accident coming in. Sarah's hand tightened on her pen. She watched the monitor. The line was nearly flat, but it wasn't flat. She stepped forward. Doctor, he still has cardiac activity. Reeves didn't even look at her. Nurse Mitchell, I said call it. She moved closer to the gurney. That's when she saw it. The tattoo. Just below the man's collarbone, a small eagle, wings spread, and beneath it, a single number, 27. Her blood went cold. We need to try again, she said quietly. Reeves spun around. Excuse me? He's not dead yet. We have to try. I'm the attending physician. I make that call. Now, step back. Sarah looked at the paramedic, then at the respiratory therapist, then at the man on the table. His lips were blue. His chest was still. But that tattoo was a message, and if she didn't act now, it wouldn't just be him who died tonight. Everyone out, she said. The room went silent. Reeves stared at her like she'd lost her mind. What did you just say? Sarah's voice didn't waver. I said everyone out now. You're a nurse. You don't give orders in my She met his eyes. There was something in her gaze that made him hesitate. Something cold. Something sharp. Out. The paramedic backed toward the door. The respiratory therapist followed. Reeves stood there, red-faced, furious. You're done here, Mitchell. I'm reporting you to close the door on your way out. He stormed off, slamming the door behind him. Sarah locked it. She turned back to the patient. Alone now. The monitor beeped once, twice, then nothing. She pulled the crash cart closer, but she didn't reach for the defibrillator paddles. Instead, she reached into her scrub pocket and pulled out a small black phone. No carrier logo. No apps. Just one number saved in the contacts. She pressed call. It rang once. A voice answered. Deep, calm. Military. Shepard, this is Cypher. We have a situation. Sarah looked down at the dying man. Agent 27 is on my table, and I think someone just tried to kill him. If you're hooked, subscribe now, because this story is just beginning, and the biggest secret is still to come. Asterisk, the voice on the other end didn't hesitate. Status? Critical. GSW to the chest. He's been down for 3 minutes. Minimal cardiac activity. Can you save him? Sarah pulled on a pair of gloves. Her hands moved fast now. Efficient. Practiced. I can try. But Shepard, if 27 is here, that means the operation is compromised. You need to lock down this hospital now. There was a pause. Understood. I'm sending a team. ETA 12 minutes. Keep him alive, Cypher. He's the only one who knows where the device is. The line went dead. Sarah pocketed the phone and turned back to the table. The man's chest wasn't moving. She placed her fingers on his neck. No pulse. She didn't panic. Instead, she pulled the crash cart closer and opened the bottom drawer. Hidden beneath the spare 4 bags was a small black case. She flipped it open. Inside was a syringe filled with a clear liquid. Experimental. Classified. Technically, it didn't exist. She didn't hesitate. She uncapped the syringe and drove the needle directly into his chest. Just above the heart. She pushed the plunger. The liquid disappeared into his body. Then she grabbed the defibrillator paddles. Clear. Shock made his body jerk off the table. The monitor flatlined. She charged again. Clear. Another jolt. Another flatline. She placed her hands on his chest and started. Compressions. Hard. Fast. Counting silently. 30 compressions. 2 breaths. 30 more. She checked the monitor. Nothing. She compressed again. Her shoulders burned. Sweat dripped down her temple. Come on, she whispered. Come on, 27. Don't you dare die on me. Suddenly the monitor beeped. Then again, a rhythm. Faint, but there. His chest rose. He gasped. His eyes flew open, wild and unfocused. Sarah grabbed his face. Listen to me. You're safe. You're at St. Catherine's. I'm Cypher. Do you understand? His lips moved. Blood stained his teeth. Cypher. Yes. I need you to stay with me. Where's the device? His hand shot up and grabbed her wrist. His grip was weak but desperate. There. Here. Her stomach dropped. Who's here? The cleaners. They followed me. Before she could respond, the lights in the trauma bay flickered. Then the power cut out. The room went black. Emergency lights kicked in a second later, bathing everything in dim red. The monitor was still beeping. The patient was still breathing, but outside the door. Sarah heard something footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. Not. The soft shuffle of nurses' boots. She reached under the crash cart and pulled out a Glock. 19. Compact. Suppressed. Always. Within reach, she moved to the door and peered. Through the small window. 3. Men in maintenance uniforms were walking down the hallway, but their posture was wrong. Too stiff, too alert, and each one had a bulge under their jackets. They stopped in front of Trauma Bay 3. One of them pulled a key card from his pocket and swiped it. The lock beeped. The door started to open. Sarah raised the gun, and when the first man stepped through, she fired twice. He dropped without a sound. The other 2 spun toward her. Reaching for their weapons, she fired again. Center mass. Clean shots. They crumpled to the floor. The hallway was silent now, except for the distant wail of a patient monitor. Sarah stepped over the bodies and dragged them inside the trauma bay. She locked the door again and turned back to Agent 27. He was staring at her, eyes wide. You really are, Cypher. She holstered the gun and checked his vitals. Heart rate was climbing. Blood pressure stabilizing. I told you. You're safe. But we need to move. More are coming. How many? She looked at the bodies on the floor. Then, at the blacked-out hallway beyond. Too many. Asterisk. Sarah pulled the IV stand closer to the gurney and started disconnecting the unnecessary lines. She needed him mobile, or at least movable. Can you walk? She asked. Agent 27 shook his head weakly. Barely. Breathing. Then we do this the hard way. She grabbed a blanket and threw it over the 3 bodies by the door. Out of sight, out of mind. For now, then she turned to the medical supply cabinet and pulled out a portable monitor, a bag of O-negative blood, and a trauma kit. She strapped everything to the gurney. Her phone buzzed. Shepard, we have a problem. Local PD just got a call about an active shooter at your location. They're sending units, but so is someone else. Who? We're picking up chatter on a private frequency. Military-grade encryption. Someone's mobilizing a hit squad. They'll be there in 8 minutes. Sarah glanced at the door. She could hear voices now, shouting, panicked staff, Dr. Reeves, barking orders. Shepard, you need to keep local PD out of this building. If they come in blind, they're dead. I'm working on it. But Cypher, if 27 dies, the device goes live in 48 hours. You understand what that means? She did a dirty bomb. Downtown, 500,000 people. I'm not letting him die. Good, because you're all we have. The line went dead again. Sarah unlocked the door and cracked it open. The hallway was chaos. Nurses running. Patients being wheeled out. Alarms blaring, and at the far end of the hall, near the elevators, she saw 2 more men in black tactical gear, earpieces, rifles. They were scanning the hallways. She pulled back and locked the door. We need another way out. She muttered. Agent 27 coughed. Blood flecked his lips. Service elevator, basement. She nodded. Can you hold on for 2 more minutes? He gave a weak thumbs dash up. Sarah moved fast. She unlocked the door, pulled the gurney into the hallway, and started pushing. She kept her head down. Just another nurse. Just another patient, but her hand never left the gun tucked into her waistband. She passed the nurses. Station Dr. Reeves was standing there yelling into a phone. I want security up here now. Some psycho nurse just locked herself in a trauma bay, and he saw her. His face went white. Stop her. 2 security guards turned. They started moving toward her. Sarah didn't stop pushing. Ma'am, stop right there. One of them shouted. She kept walking. They stepped in front of the gurney, blocking her path. I said stop. Sarah looked up at them. Her voice was calm. Cold. Move. We have orders to asterisk. She pulled the gun. Both guards froze. I said, move. They stepped. Aside, she pushed the gurney past them and turned the corner. Toward the service elevator. Her heart was pounding, but her hands were steady. Behind her, she heard Dr. Reeves screaming. Asterisk, call the police. She has a gun. The elevator doors opened. Empty. She shoved the gurney inside and slammed the button for the basement. The doors closed just as she heard boots pounding down the hallway. The elevator descended. Agent 27 groaned. You just made yourself a fugitive. Sarah checked his pulse. Still weak, but stable. Wouldn't be the first time. The elevator jolted to a stop. Basement level. The doors opened onto a dark concrete hallway. Flickering fluorescent lights. The smell of bleach and old pipes. She pushed the gurney out and started moving toward the loading dock at the far end. That's when she heard it. A voice over the hospital PA system. Attention all staff. This is a code black. Full lockdown. All exits are sealed. No one leaves. No one enters. This is not a drill. Sarah stopped. She looked up at the speaker on the ceiling. Then she heard footsteps. Behind her. Ahead of her. Echoing through the basement. They were closing in. She pulled the gurney into a side corridor and pressed herself against the wall. She could see shadows moving in the main hallway. 4, maybe 5. They were sweeping every room. She looked down at Agent 27. He was barely conscious now. She pulled out her phone one more time. Shepard. I'm trapped. Shepard's voice crackled through the phone, low and urgent. Cypher, listen carefully. Our team is 2 minutes out, but they're meeting resistance at the perimeter. Someone's jamming our comms. You're on your own. Sarah pressed her back against the cold concrete wall. The footsteps were getting closer. Copy that. If I don't make it, you'll make it. You always do. She ended the call and slipped the phone into her pocket. Agent 27's eyes fluttered open. Leave me. Not happening. Cypher. The device. Coordinates are in my phone. Jacket pocket. She reached into the bloody remains of his jacket and pulled out a cracked smartphone. The screen was shattered but still glowing. She pocketed it. Now shut up and let me work. She peered around the corner. 5 men, all armed. Moving information. Professional. Not hospital security. Not local cops. These were operators, and they were here for one reason. To finish the job. She counted her rounds. 14 left in the Glock. 5 targets. She'd need every shot to count. She pulled the fire alarm. The basement exploded with noise. Red lights flashed. Sprinklers kicked on. Water poured from the ceiling. The operators paused, momentarily disoriented. Sarah stepped out from the corridor. She fired 3 times. 2 men dropped. The third took cover behind a support pillar. The remaining 2 returned fire. Bullets sparked off the concrete inches from her head. She ducked back, pulling the gurney with her. Contact. Basement level. She's armed. One of them was shouting into a radio. Sarah grabbed a fire extinguisher off the wall and rolled it down the hallway. It clanged and hissed, spewing white foam. She used the cover to reposition. She moved low and fast, flanking to the left. She came up behind a storage cage and steadied her. Aimed 2 more shots. Another man went down, but the last 2 had regrouped. They were advancing now, weapons raised, scanning for her position. She was outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time. She glanced back at Agent 27. His eyes were closed. His breathing shallow. She couldn't let them take him. She stepped out into the open. Drop your weapons. The 2 operators spun toward her. For a split second, they hesitated. That's all she needed. She fired 4 times. Center mass. Both men collapsed. The hallway went silent, except for the wail of the alarm, the hiss of the sprinklers. Sarah lowered her gun. Her hands were shaking now. Adrenaline crashing, she moved back to the gurney and checked Agent 27's pulse. Still there. Barely she grabbed the handles and started pushing again. Faster now, toward the loading dock. She could see the exit ahead. A heavy metal door. Locked. She pulled out her hospital keycard and swiped it. Red light. Access denied, of course. She kicked the door. It didn't budge. Behind her, she heard more footsteps. Boots on concrete. A lot of them. She spun around, raising her gun, but the figures that emerged from the shadows weren't wearing black. Tactical gear. They were wearing military fatigues, and leading them was a woman in full combat uniform. Short hair, sharp eyes, a rifle slung across her chest. She raised her hand. Stand down, Cypher. Sarah kept her gun raised. Identify yourself. The woman stepped forward into the light. On her shoulder was a patch, a black eagle. Wings spread, the same tattoo Agent 27 had. Major Kara Voss, Unit 27. I'm here to extract you both. Sarah didn't lower her weapon. Prove it. Major Voss reached into her vest and pulled out a small metal badge. Sarah recognized it immediately. Silent badge. The mark of an operative so classified. They didn't exist on any official record. Sarah finally lowered her gun. About time. Major Voss nodded to her team. 2 soldiers moved forward and took control of the gurney. A medic immediately started checking Agent 27's vitals. He's stable, the medic reported, but he needs surgery now. Major Voss looked at Sarah. You did good, Cypher. Most people wouldn't have been able to keep him alive this long. Sarah wiped the water from her face. Most people don't have my training, no, Voss said quietly. They don't. She gestured toward the exit. One of her soldiers planted a breaching charge on the door. Fire in the hole. The charge detonated with a muffled bang. The door blew open. Beyond it, Sarah could see a convoy of black SUVs. Engines running. Heavily armed soldiers forming a perimeter. They moved fast. The gurney was loaded into the first vehicle. Sarah climbed in after it. Major Voss leaned in through the door. Director Hale wants to see you. As soon as this is over, Sarah's heart sank. Director Hale? That name meant only one thing. Her cover was blown. Asterisk. The convoy moved fast through the empty streets. It was 4 a.m. now. The city was still asleep inside the SUV. Military medic worked on Agent 27. IV lines, monitors, emergency meds. He was stable, but he wasn't out of danger yet. Sarah sat across from him, soaked from the sprinklers, her scrubs stained with blood. Her hands were finally still. Major Voss sat beside her, watching the road ahead. You know, Voss said quietly when Shepard told me a nurse had 27 on her table, I didn't believe him. I thought it was a mistake. Sarah didn't respond.
Oh.
Then he told me who the nurse was, and everything made sense. Sarah turned to her. How much does your team know? Only that you're classified. Above my clearance level. But I know enough. I know you're not just a nurse. For 3 years I was. And before that, Sarah looked out the window. The hospital was disappearing behind them. Soon police would flood the building. They'd find the bodies. They'd find the evidence. And they'd find nothing that pointed to her. Because Sarah Mitchell didn't exist. Not really. For that, she said quietly, I was someone else. The convoy pulled into an industrial complex on the outskirts of the city. Abandoned warehouses. Rusted fences. The perfect place to disappear. They stopped in front of a large hangar. The doors opened. And inside was a fully equipped mobile surgical unit. Doctors, nurses, real ones this time. Agent 27 was rushed inside. Sarah started to follow. Major Voss stopped her. Not you. Director's orders. You're coming with me. Sarah hesitated. Then she nodded. She followed Voss to a second vehicle. A black sedan, unmarked. They climbed in, and the driver pulled away without a word. 20 minutes later, they arrived at a federal building. Tall, glass. Anonymous Voss led Sarah inside, through a security checkpoint and into an elevator. They descended. Down, down, down. Far below street level, when the doors opened, Sarah found herself in a long corridor. White walls. Fluorescent lights. No windows. At the end of the hall was a conference room. Voss stopped at the door. He's waiting for you. Sarah stepped inside. The room was empty except for one man. He stood at the far end, hands behind his back, staring at a wall of monitors. Each screen showed a different angle of St. Catherine's Hospital. Police tape. News crews. Chaos. He turned when she entered. Director Marcus Hale. Tall gray hair. A face carved from stone. He wore a suit, but his posture was military. Decades of service? He looked at Sarah for a long moment, then he smiled. Commander. Sarah stood at attention. Director. Wait. Hale gestured to a chair. Sit, please. She didn't move. I can stand, sir. He nodded. Of course you can. He walked over to the table and opened a file. I've been reading your report, or rather, Major Voss's report. 5 hostiles neutralized. Agent 27 extracted alive. 0 civilian casualties. He looked up at her. Not bad for a night shift nurse. I did what was necessary. You did more than that. Hale closed the file. You exposed yourself. Your cover is burned, Commander. Every camera in that hospital caught you. Every witness saw your face. By tomorrow morning, your picture will be on every news station in the country. Sarah said nothing, which means Hale continued, you can't go back. Not to St. Catherine's. Not to that life. I understand. Hale studied her. Do you? You've been under for 3 years? 3 years of obscurity. Of playing the role. I know how hard that is. It was the mission, sir. Now the mission is over. Walked to the monitors and pointed at one of the screens. It showed Agent 27 in surgery. His vitals were strong. Because of you, we recovered the device coordinates. Because of you, we stopped a terror attack. Because of you, millions of people will wake up tomorrow and never know how close they came to dying. He turned back to her. You saved them all, Commander, and no one will ever know your name. Sarah met his eyes. That's the job. Hal nodded slowly. It is, but it's not the only job. He walked over to the table and picked up a small black box. He opened it. Inside was a metal silver unmarked. This is for you, Hal said. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a ceremony. But it represents something. Sacrifice. Duty. The silent badge you've carried every day for the last 3 years. He held it out to her. Sarah took it. The weight of it felt heavier than it should. Thank you, sir. Ha extended his hand. She shook it. Welcome back, Commander. It's Catherine's Hospital. Asterix Hospital had returned to normal. Almost the news crews were gone. The police tape was removed. The official story was simple. An attempted robbery gone wrong. 5 suspects killed in a shootout with federal agents. No mention of a nurse. No mention of a nameless patient. No mention of a bomb in the ER. Dr. Reeves stood at the nurse's station, flipping through charts. He looked annoyed. He always looked annoyed. Has anyone heard from Mitchell? He asked one of the other nurses. She shook her head. No. She just stopped showing up. HR says she resigned. No notice. No explanation. Reeves scoffed. Typical. Probably couldn't handle the pressure. She was always too soft for emergency medicine. The other nurse said nothing, but she remembered that night. The locked door. The gunshots. The look in Sarah's eyes. Soft wasn't the word she would have used at that moment. The elevator doors opened. A man stepped out. He was tall. Military uniform. 4 stars on his shoulder. General Raymond Keller. The entire went silent. Keller walked through the hallway slowly, his eyes scanning the room. Doctors froze. Nurses stepped aside. He stopped in front of Dr. Reeves. Are you the head of emergency medicine? Reeves straightened. Yes, sir. Dr. Marcus Reeves. How can I help you? Keller didn't answer. Instead, he turned to the other staff. I'm looking for someone. Her name is Sarah Mitchell. Nurse. Night shift. Reeves blinked. Mitchell. She quit. Left without notice. Honestly, General, she wasn't very... Where is she now? Reeves stammered. I don't know. We haven't been able to reach her. Keller's jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Find her. He hung up and turned back to Reeves. That woman saved more lives last week than you will in your entire career. And you didn't even know who she was. Reeves went pale. I don't understand. You don't need to. At that moment, the elevator doors opened again, and Sarah Mitchell stepped out. She wasn't wearing scrubs. She was wearing a military dress uniform. Crisp, pressed, rows of medals. And on her shoulder, a rank insignia that made every person in the room hold their breath. Lieutenant, Colonel. She walked toward General Keller with her head high. Her posture was different now, confident, commanding. Reeves stared at her, his mouth open. Mitchell. She didn't even glance at him. She stopped in front of General Keller and saluted. He returned the salute. Then he extended his hand. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Mitchell. It's an honor. She shook his hand. The honor is mine, General. Keller turned to address the room. This woman is a decorated military officer. She has served in classified operations across 3 continents. She has saved countless lives, and for the last 3 years, she served here, in this hospital under deep cover, protecting all of you without you ever knowing it. The room was dead silent. Keller looked directly at Dr. Reeves. He called her soft. You dismissed her. You treated her like she was beneath you. He stepped closer. She could run this entire hospital with her eyes closed, and you couldn't even see it. Reeves said nothing. His face was red. Keller turned back to Sarah. Your next assignment is waiting. But I wanted to make sure you got the recognition you deserved, even if it's just for a moment. Sarah nodded. Thank you, General. He saluted her again. She returned it. Then he turned and walked toward the elevator. The doors closed behind him. Sarah stood there for a moment, surrounded by the same people she'd worked beside for 3 years. People who never knew her, never saw her. She looked at Reeves. He couldn't meet her eyes. She turned to the other nurses. Some of them were smiling. Others looked like they wanted to say something, but didn't know how. Finally, one of them stepped forward. A young nurse named Emma. She'd always been kind to Sarah. You saved that man, didn't you? The one with no name? Sarah smiled softly. I did my job. You're not really a nurse. For 3 years. And I was proud to be. Emma nodded, tears in her eyes. We'll miss you. I'll miss you too. Sarah walked to the elevator. She pressed the button and waited. As the doors opened, she glanced back one last time. Dr. Reeves was still standing there, frozen. The other staff were whispering, staring. She stepped into the elevator. The doors closed, and Sarah Mitchell disappeared. But this time, Not into obscurity, into the shadows where she belonged, where the silent badge was carried. By those the world would never know, but would always need. 3 months later, in a small apartment in Berlin, a man sat at a table, drinking coffee. His chest was bandaged. His breathing was still a little shallow, but he was alive. Agent 27 looked at the phone on the table. A message had just come through. It was from an unknown number. "Stay safe." 27, the world still needs you. He smiled and deleted the message. Because some debts could never be repaid, but they would never be forgotten. The Eon Diff. You love this story? Subscribe to Silent Badge Stories for more hidden hero tales. Because the greatest heroes are the ones you never see coming.